real quick count.
Hey, good evening, friends. So I'm really excited tonight. I'm sat here with the founder of Project Flint, Karina.
Hello.
So, reason we got together, I happen to be in the Wisconsin area, and we'd met previously in Michigan, hearing regarding the increase in the water grab, and came and spoke on the behalf of the residents of Flint, and so we exchanged details, and while I was down these ways, I really wanted to sit down and speak with her because she's been working really, really hard to bring awareness to the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. So can you tell us a little bit about how on earth you got involved in that to start with?
It is not that interesting of a story. It really just started because I read social media, the power of social media, and I read one single article that a friend of mine posted, and it was called "The Flint Water Crisis: An American Travesty," and so the word travesty really caught my attention because I wasn't familiar with that word, ironically enough.
Right.
So then I read it, and I was immediately hooked, and I knew I had to get there, and I went there, and I didn't know anybody. I just kind of loaded my car up with water, and I got there, and I let the wind take me, and upon doing that, it landed me in just, like, the perfect home, the Newbie family. And so from there, it kind of just spread like wildfire. I didn't expect for it to be that I was almost a year and a half later still going to be fighting for this cause and for the city.
So you've been involved for about 18 months now?
Not quite 18 months, but...
Coming up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is coming up, yeah. So February of, like, the first week, February of 2016. So just a little bit over a year, actually. I guess I like to run high.
No, that's fine. And I mean, obviously, it plays a huge role in your life now, yeah?
Yeah, it does. There's been times where it's consumed me in, like, some unhealthy ways, to be honest with you, because when you see the sufferings that are going on in a city in our nation, America, and so going there, I thought it was just one issue, but then upon returning and getting to know the people and hearing their stories and the miraculous things that I found, I started to learn the real, ugly, deadly truth of what was going on. And so it consumed me, you know, and but yeah, Flint is a part of me, and I feel a lot of me is rooted there.
So before we really talk about the main issues of Flint, I mean, when you first went there, how come it didn't become, you know, you just went there and looked to see what was going on and then just came back to your life? What made you decide to make it your life? Because, you know, you've got a Facebook page now, Project Flint, that's got a large following, and I've seen you've had videos that you've done out there with over 100,000 viewers. So, for yourself, from knowing you, you're not a person who generally goes out there to be in the spotlight. You're not a media person. You never went out there to make a name for yourself. So what was it that drew you to spending so much of your time and energy? What was the real calling that you found, I guess?
Well, calling is kind of one part of it. A big part of it is just answering a calling, and then just people. That's really what it comes down to, is that I believe that we live in a nation and a time that is so distracted, and, you know, we have our platforms of social media, and they come in handy, you know, when you choose to use them for good. You know, so there's all of this technology that we have that can really take up our time and consume all of our energy and our time on things that mean absolutely nothing other than divert you from things that are going on in our nation and in our world. But focusing on the people and hearing their stories and really having to desensitize or undesensitize myself and channel into, these are real people with real sufferings in the city. I need to channel that, and I need to find the care and compassion inside of my life, despite my busy lifestyle, despite what I have going on in my life, to step up and to try and help save them.
That's really awesome you mentioned despite having a life, because a lot of people, I think, see people that go and get the label activist, which I don't like that label. People use that label.
Yeah.
They go and they see an activist and they think that, you know, that's all they do. Their life is activism, as opposed to they have a life and activism is part of their life. So it's really cool that you kind of bring up the fact that, you know, you can sacrifice some things in your life that aren't as important to look at things that truly are important. Yeah. So, you know, you don't spend the weekend watching movies. You don't spend the weekend sat, you know, I don't know, playing video games or going out getting drunk with friends. You go and spend your weekend going to Flint and finding out what's truly happening there. Yeah. Because, I mean, let's talk about the media a little bit. Because usually people look at, you know, social media has become a place people go for their news recently. Because people have started to discover that the traditional idea of being able to go to the newspaper, go to the television to find out what's happening, really
infiltrate the infiltrators.
So I guess for people that are watching, if they don't know a lot about Flint, I mean, if you were to sum it up in really basic terms, in almost like a soundbite, what's the main issue? What's the main issue that's happening in Flint right now? Difficult question, I agree, because there's so much going on.
Holocaust. And that's a strong word to use. It's like it's an underlying war. Bacteria right now is big on my radar. But one thing I've learned is that those scary words that people tend to shy away from are the words that need to be used, because those are the scary words that when they're not used in truth and with love to wake people up, with the purpose of waking people up, they win. And so I'm very concerned because Flint is in a war right now. And people don't realize that it's a very real war that we are fighting in. So I guess that kind of sums it up, puts everything into one. I know that's very intense. I understand that.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, to go a little bit deeper in the sense of the actual problem, I mean, what are some of the things that you've experienced firsthand, talking to or seeing with your communications with the residents there, the people who are actually being truly affected?
Yeah. Well, the water, obviously, ever since the switch, people, I think, are so used to now lead being, because, you know, I'm sure you've heard that Flint is ground zero, and it's an absolute truth, because ever since Flint happened, lead is an issue everywhere. And I think that what they do is they kind of introduce you to these problems with the idea of getting you used to it. So when it's full-blown in your face, you're like, it's not that big of a deal. But the problem is now is that there's so many innocent children and people that are going to be forever affected by the damages of lead poisoning. And not just lead poisoning, but how many people have lost their lives to Legionnaires? 12 that we know of. Because the doctors' reports are all fabricated as well. You can't trust the hospitals or the doctors, most of them. And right now, this bacteria that's in Flint, Michigan, that the city and the state know about, the CDC knows about, there's scientists that know about it, and the CDC actually had it on their website about this bacteria. It's called like Stenotrophonolia gosh, it's so hard to say. It's really hard. It's like this big, huge, long word. I'll have to post it on these videos after. But this bacteria is a really big issue right now because nobody's acknowledging it. There has been no warning to the citizens in that city. And this bacteria that is in Flint right now is a global opportunistic superbug, is how they label it. And it's actually in the category of bioterrorism. And so what the problem is that, number one, how many people are affected in Flint that don't even realize that they're affected? Because what this bacteria does is it'll lie dormant on you and or in you until you are immune compromised. So when you're sick, I don't know what level of sick you have to be for it to attack, but when you're sick, it will attack. And it's antibiotic resistant. My friend that has this superbug has taken all of the antibiotics offered to her, and she still has a superbug. She can't get rid of it. Most cases are fatal, and most cases are in third world countries. And it's right in the category of bioterrorism. So
why is that an issue that's not being spoken about? I mean, if there's proven records of there being that bacteria in the water, I know there's been a lot of talk there about, they've been giving out these water filters to clean the water, and this is a great service that's being done for the residents. They're getting these free filters. Problem with the filters is the filters don't actually clean the water.
They can't possibly. With the high levels of leads and coppers and all of the heavy metals that are in there. But the really big concern right now that Flint especially needs to, be aware of is that this bacteria, these filters are using this, the bacteria is using the filters as a breeding ground. It's harvesting. So upon running and trying to run out, to filter out the lead, it's actually like a housing station for this bacteria, and it's thriving in these filters, or it's a potential thriving zone for these filters. This was tested by a scientist, so this is fact. This is not something that I'm just saying off of a preconceived idea. This is fact, straight from a scientist's mouth who has now digressed his statement. And you asked, why are they hiding this? Well, that's a really good question, but anybody who has wisdom enough to understand why anybody would hide such hazardous information from the people that it's going to affect, if they're going to hide it, you should know that it's because there's a plan behind it. So it makes me wonder if they put it there on purpose, just the way that they switched the water. Because Flint, Michigan is nothing but a huge investment. And they have these corporate people that have come. It's a land grab. All of these areas in Flint have gone for sale. They've been bought out. The master plan, if anybody looks at the master plan online, granted, they've changed it so people, might not grasp it. But it's an investment, and they're looking at dollar signs over people. And so what they're doing right now is, so with the water switch, it was not by chance that they switched the water. They knew forever and a day that water was not safe. And they did not treat the water. Who in their right mind would not treat the water coming from such corrosive, deadly water? Who in their right mind? Somebody who has a plan, that's who. And so then that got out an abundance of people, along with the past 5 generations that have gone through that city. Slowly you see Flint dwindle away. And now what we have is a poison city with bad water, and the next thing they could possibly do is bioterrorism. Another last-ditch effort to get them out so they can finally have their way in that city and make their money.
You talk about a lot of things that to some people are going to be pretty hard to conceive of ideas, but a lot of this stuff's come out. For example, there have been emails that have been public record emails that have been asked for and put into the public domain, where it shows that Governor Snyder's office was offered cheaper water alternative from the original water source in Detroit. That it would, in fact, staying with that water source, it would have been cheaper. And I've seen documents, and I've seen emails, and I've seen articles written about that. So when they say that this was a money-saving thing, that's been shown to be a lie.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot going on there. Now let's take it back a little bit, because you haven't always been on this path, if you like, this destiny. But from getting involved at Flint, you also went up to one of the largest gatherings of nations ever in the world that were standing up for clean water, which was up at Standing Rock in North Dakota. Yeah. So speak a little bit about your experience of going up to Standing Rock, what kind of information you gleaned, and the things that you saw there, what that experience was like.
Standing Rock to me was Man, Standing Rock, I felt, again, a calling to get to Standing Rock, but when I got there, it was really bizarre to me to see that there was such public evidences of war that were happening upon the indigenous people by the mercenaries and the militarized officers and by local and out-of-state police of just all kinds. Blood and vomit and all of the traces of things that were inflicted upon our indigenous people and the protectors that were there behind them, you know? So it was very obvious and in your face, but I was really amazed to see still how the media was able to twist the truth and make it seem as though it was not a peaceful protest and that the indigenous tribes were the ones to blame for how everything went down. But the oppression is what really stuck out to me. When I got to Standing Rock, I did a lot of sitting and listening and spending time with the indigenous people. I wasn't so concerned with the water protectors and the activists that came from all over the places because I deal a lot with people like that all the time. And I don't mean to use the word deal with, but I work with and speak to. But just like when I go to Flint, Michigan, my focus is the people in Flint. When I went to Standing Rock, my focus was the indigenous people. I wanted to learn about their traits and their values and what they stand for and their faith and their ceremonies and hear their stories. And I did just that. And I'm glad that I did because listening to their stories and sleeping in a sweat lodge with Dan, you know, and some other friends and listening to them tell their stories about the fires that they set on the hill, hoping that it would burn camp out. But the wind blew the other way and ended up blowing it right back towards the bridge. So the oppressors who set the fire, you know, and so it's really, to me, it comes down to oppression. And when I got to Standing Rock, I understood why I was called to go there was because Flint, Michigan, the residents of Flint, Michigan, and our indigenous people in Standing Rock and all across our nation, the oppression that they face is much of this. It's very much intertwined. And I realized that this community and this community, our indigenous community and our Flint community, they need each other because they face a lot of the same battles for so many years that people haven't known about.
So, was that your first opportunity, really, to sit down with the true knowledge keepers and the true protectors of Mother Earth and really learn that knowledge and those stories and those ways and how to live in a good way firsthand?
Yeah, in that sense, yes, because I never really was able to experience a movement like that before. You know, it was really powerful to see, and the love and the unity and just caring for our environment even, you know, and understanding what a role it plays into our everyday lives and how it's going to affect us and our children. And so being a part of that and experiencing it rather than seeing it on social media or reading about it in an article, you know, it was able to completely separate media from fact because I was there and I had fact. And so it was absolutely the first time. I'm glad I went.
So you went to school in America. So being English, my assumption before coming here would be you would learn about the history of the original caretakers of this land, the people that were here before the English and the Westerners came here. So what did you learn at Standing Rock, or what did you see and find out at Standing Rock that you hadn't found out at school, or that was different, or even the opposite to what you had been taught in school?
Mm-hmm. I think that for me, it's different now what kids are being taught. I learned of the massacres. I've learned, you know, of those things, not on the scale of what I learned at Standing Rock. But I feel like when you learn things in school, it tends to be a little bit robotic, and the emotions are gone, and people don't look at people. Rather than, they look at it like it's a textbook. It's a story, it's a fable, when in fact this is real. And the oppression that our Native Americans have been facing since the beginning, since Christopher Columbus came in and took their land and drove them out and put them in these little tiny reservations that are crap water and horrible for them to live and thrive off of. and they're continuously taking their land away as we go on through the years. But going there and hearing their stories firsthand, I realized, number one, there's so much more to the story that I didn't even realize, and number two, it never ended. It never ended. The Native Americans that we read about in our history books in elementary school, like the Trail of Tears and all of that, it never ended. The only difference is that our mainstream media has done just its job. It's diverted us from the truth. It's distracted us. So we have a whole entire city of Flint, Michigan, and we have an entire community all across our entire nation of our Indigenous people that have been oppressed and have been suffering, and we haven't even known about it.
That's really absolutely true, and I think if I can share, since leaving Standing Rock myself, one of my things was, I've been interested in nature and I wanted to go and see these threats to Mother Earth. Mm-hmm. And every place that I went to, I was going to yet another different Indigenous culture, another sovereign nation. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the Grand Traverse Band of Adair and Chippewa Indians and the Anishinaabe people up in Michigan, or whether it's down at Chaco Canyon and it's the Pueblo people, or it's out in Oklahoma and it's the Ponca Nation. Every single place I've been, it has been on the land or right by the land of the very people whose land was stolen in the first place. So it was a real eye-opener as well. So in some respects, I've delved into this journey I've been on, initially going on a journey for the environment and realizing that, in fact, what I was going on was a journey for the Indigenous people, because it's one and the same thing.
Yeah. And
through that journey, what I've learned is they're the people who understood and have always understood how to live as a part of nature, how to live as a part, how that we're not superior to all, mm-hmm. that we're connected to all, mm-hmm. whether it's the land, whether it's the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged ones, everything's connected. Mm-hmm. So that's really opened my eyes in a lot of ways, and that's a message that I feel is something that needs to be put out there a lot more for people to understand, because when people can understand that message, they can feel a lot more they can feel a lot more in common with people, and they can, once their eyes are open, they can see what the problem is, they can help be part of the solution. So I know talking earlier, we were talking a lot about the movement and how crucial it is when it's a movement, whether it's a camp, whether it's a group, whatever it is, of being able to be very cohesive and very together, because there's always going to be so many outside forces that are trying to disrupt what's happening, and you've mentioned some of that.
Yeah.
So from what you saw at Standing Rock to what you're now seeing happening down in Flint, because there's a camp that started in Flint pretty recently, called Camp Promise. What are some of the things that, when people are setting up camps, that some of the lessons that you've seen at Standing Rock that could be taken? Because let's be honest, all these camps that are popping up across the country, none of those camps would be happening right now, but for the Indigenous-led movement at Standing Rock that acted as the catalyst for all of it.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. So we need our Indigenous people to back behind Flint, Michigan. Because, let's face it, they are the ones that help catapult and bridge these two gaps together. So some of the lessons and the things that I've learned that I would take with, one thing that I really appreciated about Standing Rock was that every day they had, because there's so many people that would come in there, the leaders that organized Standing Rock, whether it was the original leaders or those that stepped up to lead, they positioned themselves in a way where they understood their role as a leader, and they have to rise up to that position. So they had sessions every morning where people coming in from all over the world would come in and they would get schooled on the atmosphere of Standing Rock, that it's a peaceful protest, what you're here for, what we expect, how you respond to and engage with the elders, how we... it was just a full circle. I mean, they really covered everything. And so there was really never ever any questions as to how you were to conduct yourself and what the overall objective of Standing Rock was. We knew what we were there for. because they made it clear. So I think that's a really good idea for camps that pop up all over the nation, is to have the leaders of these camps organize something like that. Find out exactly what it is. What is it that your mission statement is? What is your objective? Who do you stand for? What do you stand for? Who do you invite? What is the atmosphere? All of it. And cover the ground. If you have one new visitor a day, have that person sit down and share it with that one person, because before you know it, if you do it the right way, you'll have people coming from all over the place. And another thing was just the unity and the respect. There are so many walks of life at Standing Rock. And one thing I said was, I am convinced that every good person on the planet right now, I was standing up on that hill that looked over Turtle Island and the bridge and the hill that got burned. I was standing on top of that hill with a journalist that he just came walking up there, and we're chatting it up, and I said, I'm fully convinced that every good person on the planet right now is right over here over this camp. Because, you know, I'm a woman of faith, I'm a Christian woman, I believe in the Bible. My friend might not. Maybe my friend's an atheist. Maybe this person believes in, you know, whatever. I mean, just so many different walks of life, but somehow the energy and the love in that camp was, the understanding was what the movement was revolved around, but there somehow the energy, everybody just found their unity and their place and a way to love each other and to work together. And with every camp and large movement, you're always going to have issues. You're always going to have issues. There's always going to be underlying tensions that people don't see or hear about because it gets personal. It's really important when there's a personal issue going on to keep it right there and to leave it there, because when you're already fighting such a passionate, heart-wrenching cause as we are all over the nation right now, in Flint, Michigan, with, you know, what we did at Standing Rock, you know, in Iowa, Florida, Canada, all over the place.
Right.
We have to be able to leave those things behind, because what happens is pure-hearted people may accidentally become an infiltrator themselves by allowing their personal baggage to be brought into the open. So we have to find a way to handle our business without having it affect the movement.
No, that's definitely a really interesting point. And I think also the point that you brought up about almost like a camp induction, where when someone comes, everyone there knows, hey, when a new person comes, they go and see Bob. Bob's the person who's going to do that tour. Bob's going to set out that. That's what Bob's role is.
Yes.
And then they've got Jenny. Jenny's going to be the person who's going to set out the rule maybe regarding first aid and where you find first aid. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Jack, and Jack's head of the kitchen. So Jack will let you know how the kitchen runs.
Yes.
So everyone's got their own roles, and a person comes in and understands how that works. So there's that level of organization. So it's not like leadership in that sense. It's in a hierarchical sense. It's in that sense of people having that feeling of comfort. And then when people are talking about the camp, especially when press comes, making sure that maybe there's one or two people that are the main people who talk for that camp. Mm. And everyone knows those are the faces of that camp. Those are the people that are putting out that constant message. And if other people are going to talk about a camp, a movement, making sure that that message is consistent, that goes out. The message
is consistent, yeah.
Because the minute the message doesn't become consistent, someone's going to grab on the smallest part of that inconsistent message to try and pull that movement apart. Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest, there's many, many forces that don't want to see everyone waking up. Yeah. They don't want to see issues like Flint, Michigan push right to the forefront with thousands of people coming to a camp, because that's going to unravel a whole story of corruption and dirty dealings and everything else. So anything they can do to stop that. I mean, you saw the arrests at the church the other night at the town hall that they ran in a church. I mean, some of that stuff, like even the fact that it was happening in a church, was a strange place to have a town hall. So there's a lot of things to try and to keep the lid on things. Mm-hmm. And as soon as it starts to bubble up a bit, they will find any way they can to kind of turn the heat back down again. Mm-hmm. So I guess as part of a movement, one of the key things is to all be singing off the same song sheet and making sure that there's that cohesiveness and making everyone feel welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. You hit it on the head like a dozen times just now in talking about with how they set things up on purpose. And one thing that we have to remember is that the way that they're doing things outside of we as people who are fighting for these causes, think of it like how we have our troops, right? So we have our military. And our military, it's an organized, they have a even though as we the people, they have a chain of command, they have an organized rules, and they have a set established way of doing things. They know what their step is in case this happens, what direction do we go? And so when you look at it as we the people now, because what we have here, and I really see this is me talking, and I only represent myself and Project Flint. In my personal opinion, what I see happening here is a war within our nation, but it's not a war that's fought with missiles and guns. It's a war that's done very secretly and quietly and underneath the table. And it takes an awakened person to see it and to understand that it's happening. So the war that we're fighting, they have calculated, and they've been doing this for a very long time. Now what we're doing as with our Indigenous people and with our activists and our protectors and just our people all across the nation that are waking up to this, and we're forming alliances with each other and forming unity with one another, we have to now find our own organization. We have to find some sort of groundworks here, because we are a troop now. Maybe kind of small in number, but we are more than them. And so
love army.
It's an army of love, exactly what it is, because love conquers all. That's the hashtag that I use all of the time. I don't believe in fighting wars with right here in our nation. What we honest to God, what is going to combat this is when we all come together, awakened, without dissension, without diversion, and just love our way right through this battle, because darkness cannot stand the light. They can't. What the light does is it infiltrates the darkness. And it sounds really simple, and to any war-raged, happy person, I'm not a tree hugger. I love tree huggers. But, I do believe that there's a time and a place for protection. But I believe that this war that we're fighting right now, what's been put on my heart is that love conquers all. And so I believe this one in particular, we're going to love our way through it. And the way we do that is by outdoing their murderous, malice ways, despite what they're doing in the city of Flint, Michigan, despite what they did in Standing Rock, shooting people and all the poisonings that they did. People are afraid to go to these places because they don't want to get hurt, right? But love conquers fear even, and fear is a liar. So when you put your fear aside, unafraid of getting killed, unafraid of getting maced, sprayed, poisoned, I'm not afraid of any of that, because I love these people more than my fear has hold of me. These people that are trying to instill fear in your life are watching, and they're like, all of our stuff isn't working. What the heck? They should be scared out of their mind right now. Why are these people coming to Flint? There's bacteria, there's poison, but they're coming because we love. That's why.
I love that. No, I really do. So maybe to draw this to a close, what's next for you? What's coming up for you this weekend?
I'm going to be in Flint, Michigan this weekend. I have this event going on. It's going to be not like an event that I've had in the past, but this is really just going to be an opportunity for anybody in Flint, Michigan that really just want to share their story. Because I'm seeing that now more people are ready to talk about it, whereas in the past they were afraid. But I think people are starting to realize now that there's nothing to be afraid of. So it's their time now, just like it's our Indigenous people time. They all have a voice. We have to help give them a voice. So that's what I want to do.
That's awesome. So this weekend you're going to be down at Kersley Park,
Yeah.
At Camp Promise,
Mm-hmm.
but you're going to be running your own event where you're inviting any residents of Flint who would like to just come and talk in kind of like a talking circle and speak about what's happened to them.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there right now is from Flint or has any friends in Flint who this weekend will be able to come down to Kersley Park, feel free to shoot a message to Project Flint and let's organise it. Let's see how many people we can get down there and keep putting this message out there and get those real stories of the people that are affected and put everything else kind of to one side and really focus on what matters, which is what's happening to those people who haven't done a thing wrong, who are having their water poisoned.
Yeah, and not just Flint, but anybody in the surrounding cities and states that wants to come, and if not this Saturday, but just in the future. This movement right now at Camp Promise is not just even Camp Promise, but Flint, Michigan, really needs the nation to rally around them. So this is an invitation for people to get to Flint, Michigan, because what we saw at Standing Rock is what we need to have happen in Flint, Michigan. Because they, honest to God, cannot do it on their own. They can. But together we're stronger and better. So
absolutely. So just tell people how they can find you, how they can find Project Flint.
Okay, it's pretty simple. If you're looking on Twitter or even YouTube or Facebook, it's just Project Flint. 2 words, Project Flint. You can hashtag Project Flint. A lot of videos and articles and things will pop up, but that's a really good way to get in touch with what the things that I cover that are very different than a lot of other people tend to cover, because I kind of have a big mouth and I'm not afraid to say things, and it gets me in a lot of trouble sometimes. But so Project Flint, and we're happy to have you guys. Project Flint is really, it's not about one person. Project Flint grew because of the community that we are. It's not me, it's not you, it's all of us. And so I look at Project Flint as being a community of people that are fighting for a common cause. And so I hope to bring our Indigenous and our Flintsters and just everybody from all across the globe all together for this common goal, which is also privatization of water. Boycott Nestle.
Well, that's a good place to finish. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, sister. And thanks everyone out there who was watching. Please go ahead and share this out there. As you know, a lot of people aren't getting notifications right now.
Yeah.
So if you can't be involved personally, one thing you can do as a keyboard warrior is share this out so other people have the chance to hear the story. Because it takes a community to do this, and you don't have to be on the front lines to make a difference. So thanks for being there, guys.
Thank you so much. We love you guys so much. Say bye to this one too. We almost forgot about these guys.
Yeah, see you later, guys.
See you, Project Flintsters. All right, share this video out, you guys. So this is my page. I can keep it Project Flint real style for you guys. Thank you. I'm wondering who's all here. All right, I'm still rolling. All right, let's do it.
If anyone's got any questions here,
what do we got here, y'all? All right, let's just see. Everybody watching right now, let's share this out. We're gonna go. Holy crap, Kevin! Look at what you did. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Chris is from Wisconsin. He always tunes into everything that I do. Thank you, Marie, for sharing it. And abuela. You must be a grandma, because abuela in Spanish means grandma. Traveler. They're talking about you here. Traveler. D. Julia, thank you so much for sharing this. All right, let's see. We're going to look for some questions and see if we can answer any questions on here. There's quite a few, so just hang tight as we give you our eyeballs really close. Sorry. Thank you from Flint. Love ya. Aw, Tabitha, we love you. Who is the guy? Not his name. This is Kevin Gilbert. Kevin Gilbert, if you look him up on Facebook, he is actually a voice for a lot of things, especially the pipeline. He's been covering Line 5 recently and helping cover the KWA in Michigan, and the one that will be coming through Wisconsin soon, and he was out at Standing Rock, so He stands for a lot of the same that we do, and he also covers a lot more of things that I don't do. So if you don't know who Kevin Gilbert is, this is Kevin Gilbert.
Feel free to find me on Facebook. You can also go to my website, letyoursoulplay.com, and that will link you out to YouTube. I think it goes out to Instagram, Facebook, and my business Facebook as well. Been on the road since Standing Rock, traveled over 17,000 miles with my girlfriend across numerous states, looking at all the different issues that are affecting people. Recently been in Michigan, have been at Flint. I was actually there for the opening day of Camp Promise, and got to go and actually, with my friend Desmond Berry, got to go and fly a drone on the route of the KWA pipeline there as well. So great question, Terry. Thanks for asking. And hope to be able to get back to Flint and show some more things there as well.
I hope so too. I'm sure you will eventually. I know you will. He's a roving reporter. Yeah, he is. Thank you guys for all the kind words. We appreciate that. We tend to just kind of look over the trolls. We're just going to scroll right past that. I've seen a couple, We're looking for questions. Looks like they're all engaging with each other here, which is great. That's one thing that we like to see, is that they're talking to each other. Tony Palladino.
Hey, Tony,
hey,
that's awesome.
yeah, hey, Tony. All right. Jade Helm. They already said that they were gonna. Yeah, Jade Helm has been happening. Okay, so I'm not really seeing a whole lot of questions going on here, but more comments, which is great.
Interesting what you were talking about with.
Oh, good eye. Keeping personal stuff out of the work. Yeah.
I think to answer, if I can answer that one, I think when it comes to a movement, no one person or no two people's issue is more important than the movement. So sometimes understanding, different people from different walks of life aren't always going to see eye to eye on everything. But if everyone is together around a common goal of the movement, then they can put those differences aside. Let's look at Standing Rock, for example, because that was the first time many of those nations had ever come together for a common goal. Historically, a lot of the time they'd had beef with each other. They'd had disagreement amongst their own nations. And for Standing Rock, they put those differences to the side and came together for a common goal. So that's kind of what we were talking about, like keeping personal stuff out of the work, in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and too, sometimes I think that people are people, and we have to remember that. And so no matter how wise you are, and no matter, what leadership position you might have.
Connecting the whole time?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm on
there we
right
are.
now, and it keeps connecting, so.
Yeah, we're back, LaDonna. So remembering that people are people, and being patient with each other, that's something that I really wanted to touch on. There's something really awesome and new that's growing in Flint, Michigan right now, and that's Camp Promise of Flint. There's going to be, with every good thing, there's always going to be things that come out of the cracks. Oh, it's crap. But, because that come out of the cracks that tend to cause dissensions. But we have to really start remembering that we're all people, and it doesn't matter how strong one might look or wise or noble in their step. At the end of the day, we all have human emotion, and we have to be really patient with each other, especially people that are right in the middle of the battle. They're going through and they're seeing things and witnessing things that we might not understand or see and experience. So you have to understand the toll that takes on a person's psyche, their just energy, all of it, all around the block. So we got to find ways to strategize and be smarter about it, and to be patient with each other as we're all figuring this out together.
This girl speaks truth.
Thanks.
And yes, her feeds are always interrupted. When you start looking at issues that large, how would you say it? I don't know. Large organizations like the government and the city organizations and the police, etc., those kind of official organizations don't want you to look at, then they do what they can to disrupt. And you saw that at Standing Rock, and they've seen that at Flint. And yeah, they are following. So hey to anyone who's following us.
Hey trolls, what's going on? We're still here.
Anyway, I hear
can't stop us.
It's getting kind of late, so if there's not any other crazy questions, we got any other questions?
Any more questions? We got a last call going out here. Last call. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. He just joined. All right, he's in Iowa.
Okay, cool.
He's in Iowa.
Evening, Chris.
Good evening. Like 10 seconds for a question to pop up before we do one of these, and a peace
Get
out.
out of here.
Yeah, okay. So I don't think so. All right, so everybody keep your eyes tuned because this Saturday, Project Flint will be in Flint, Michigan, and we're going to give Flint residents an opportunity to voice themselves. Aw, Dale, you're so sweet. But we'll see you guys around. This is Kevin Gilbert. Look him up. He's
Karina, she's awesome.
he covers a lot of things that I don't. So this is what unity looks like. Hi, TJ. Bye, TJ.
All right, take
See
care,
ya.
guys. Bye-bye.